Motoring 2010 on TSN is brought to you by Quaker State, real durable oil, and Michelin, a better way forward.
We're going to begin this week with a quiz. Guess the vehicle, or more importantly, the manufacturer. Now look at those nice fluid lines. And in the front, you might see a little Mercedes-Benz. And moving to the rear, how about a BMW? Well, if you chose either one, unfortunately, you are wrong. But let's have a better look at this car. And if you're still perplexed, don't worry. It's a Hyundai, the new Sonata. And who would have thought? I mean, this is a company since the beginning with the Pony that has championed the low-end vehicle. I mean, the Elantra and the Accent have been hugely successful. But beginning with last year and the Genesis, Hyundai showed that it was moving upscale. And it would appear, I think, that the company is moving in that same direction with the 2011 Sonata.
The focus a few years ago was on class above interior volume, making our cars bigger, giving customers more bang for the buck that way. And the focus now has clearly shifted to class above design and style. It incorporates Hyundai's new design philosophy that's referred to as fluidic sculpture, and it just means that all the lines blend into each other. It's a very consistent design. The lines aren't choppy, but the headlight and grille and tail lights are all incorporated into the overall design of the car. It's low, it's wide, and it just has a very sophisticated appearance to it, and it's something that we're incorporating across our model lineup.
It's not too long ago that Hyundai was the story that really nobody wanted to talk about because they had quality issues. They were slowly starting to improve on their sales. So Hyundai is now calling themselves part of the Big Six. The Big Six being the biggest and most successful automakers in Canada, selling 100,000 units, actually a little more than 100,000 units in Canada is a big deal. So for Hyundai to achieve that in 2009, that's big news.
The segment is kind of boring. And I include in that our previous Sonata. Pretty milquetoast kind of segment. I guess people thought that families didn't really want an exciting, dynamic-looking vehicle. Well, you and I can drive a mid-sized vehicle now and still feel sporty.
Not only is the interior of the Sonata nice to look at, it's functional too. In fact, we figure even if you're 6'2", you'll have ample room in that front seat. Now, of course, it's all been gloom and doom in the automotive industry over the past year and a half. Not with this company. Everything is coming up roses. It sold over 100,000 cars for the first time. In fact, they've adopted the motto, never waste a good crisis.
We were able to take advantage of the recession last year, and we well positioned to do that, I think. We had the product to do it, and much like, Toyota and Honda took advantage of the recession in the early 80s, much more frugal consumer last year. And they were looking for a value proposition that's our strong suit.
We've added things like standard Bluetooth, standard iPod and USB connectivity. We've also added, from a technology standpoint, standard 6-speed transmissions, gasoline direct injection, so a lot more on the technology front to increase power and performance and increase fuel economy as well. No V6 this year. We're introducing this 2.4-liter GDI engine initially. There will be a turbo engine coming out later on in the year, and that will be quickly followed by our 2.4-liter hybrid, which will be our first hybrid powertrain in North America, so no V6.
Yeah, it is a big car. It's actually one of two cars in the midsize category that's categorized as large. So from that standpoint, you wonder if that's a good move. Although at 198 horsepower, it's definitely the most powerful four-cylinder that's out there. If it has the right combination of power and saving on fuel, I think people will probably buy that. The drive characteristics of the car on the road were very weighted towards sort of neutral, but there was enough sportiness in it that going around some of the corners that we did today, the handling was very, very good. Trunk space also was surprisingly good, and you can fold the back seats down, so that really increases your space and your luggage capacity.
You know, this is a company on the move. It's getting bigger. In fact, it's going to bring in a hybrid in the near future. But you wonder if Hyundai has looked across the tracks at companies like General Motors and Toyota, who tried to be something for everyone.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And so we're filling out our product lineup. we're not expanding it beyond what we need. And I think we're focusing on the core segments in the market, and that's going to be part of our strength.
When you compare it to vehicles such as the Toyota Camry, Honda Accord, probably its primary competitors from a Japanese standpoint, and the Malibu and the Fusion from a North American car company standpoint, the Sonata definitely stacks up.
The customer's always right, even when he's wrong. More later on Kenzie's Corner.
Where you going, me little camera? Hello, darling. Over the past 60 years, Mercedes-Benz has sold over 10 million of these things worldwide. On this edition of Test Drive, the all-new E Class. The reason for the success is the broad array of rides that fall under the E Class banner. Along with the coupe tested here, there's a convertible with its novel air cap system, a full-bodied sedan and a spacious station wagon. In other words, there's a model for just about every well-heeled consumer. Spend a little time with this E-Coupe and you very quickly realise that this car is all about the driver. To begin with, the seat, there's 10 power adjustments, plus another 4 pneumatic. You'll also find all of the power toys you could possibly want and the command system. Now this thing controls everything, but unlike so many, it is actually intuitive because there are standalone buttons and a back button that allows you to reverse an errant input. As for the rest of it, a wonderful Harman Kardon audio system and a full glass roof. The nit to pick? Well, this car is $64,000 as it's equipped, but it does not have a backup camera. That, my friends, is another $450 as an option. It really should be standard equipment because the sight lines to the rear of this car, well, they mandate the camera. The E's bold look is backed up by the performance the 3.5-litre V6 engine delivers. While the 268 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque, which arrives at a commendably low 2400 RPM, is not exactly the stuff of drag racing lore, it is enough to motivate 1,695 kilograms of leather-line luxury to 100k in 6.4 seconds and accomplish the 80 to 120 passing move in 5.4 seconds. One of the reasons for the performance is the 7-speed Manumatic and its comfort, sport and manual modes. The fact the steering wheel mounted paddle shifters work regardless of which mode the transmission is in, well, it sweetens the drive. Now if this E350 and its V6 engine isn't quite enough for you, you can always option up to the E550 coupe. That thing and its V8 puts 382 horsepower under the hood. Now that's enough to shave the 0 to 100k time by almost a full second. The coupe's other likeable trait is the manner in which it handles. The suspension manages to deliver a comfortable ride and tidy handling at the same time. The credit goes to the active damping and its sport and comfort modes. Most of the time the comfort mode is all that's needed. The ride is relaxed, the body hunkers down when the coupe is tossed into a corner, and the feedback from the speed-sensitive steering is nicely weighted. The sport mode sharpens everything. It serves to change the E's personality appreciably. As I said, this car really was designed around the driver because the back seat, well, there's very little headroom, and if the driver actually has legs, well, there's no leg room for the backseat rider. It really does qualify as cruel and unusual punishment, even for your favourite mother-in-law. Jeez. All right, I'm glad that one's done because I can't sit there anymore. The anti-lock brake system and electronic overseers are equally proficient. The stops measured 40.2 metres from 100k, and the electronic stability and traction control system stayed out until there was a real need for intervention. So there you have it. This coupe is not going to be everybody's cup of tea. However, if you only have a passing need for a back seat, it is the model of choice. As well as coming with everything you expect from an E Class, it's got great handling and the ride is even better. Now the V6 has got enough power, the V8 has got a ton.
Make sure you check out the Motoring website at motoringtv.com. You can watch any program you may have missed. In fact, how about a trip down memory lane and see what we were driving as far back as 1988. Check out our blog, our photo gallery, and much more. It's all there at motoringtv.com.
You know, I have to tell you, I'm one of the few people I know that feels that minivans do have a place and a purpose, and it's wonderful to see particularly a high-end manufacturer like this continue to try to bridge the acceptance gap for minivans.
I think that they're putting a bib on a dog for no particular reason, silk one at that, and you know, God bless them if they think they can do it. I don't think so. I mean, the minivan market is for young families, and young families typically are broke. And so they want something that is reasonably reliable, gives them lots of space for the kids, but it's got to be at a really, really aggressively low price, and that's something that this Sienna is not.
Unlike its predecessor, the new Sonata does not come with a 6-cylinder engine. It comes with a 4-cylinder, which is quite adequate on the highway, but have a listen to it. I know, it doesn't work for me either, but it comes with something called GDI, gas direct injection. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? And who can explain it in layman's terms? Well, only one man, of course, and that's our man in the Quaker State Garage, Bill Gardner.
Hey Brad, I've got the press release from Hyundai about their new 2.4-liter Theta 2 direct injection gasoline engine, and there's some neat quotes in here. One is representing the biggest advancement in fuel injection, and that's a fair statement. Fuel injection is a 1980s technology that replaced the carburetor, and we went in stages. My truck here, my pickup truck, has what we call throttle body injection, a couple of injectors perched on basically what used to be the carburetor. It looks like the lower half of a carburetor with a couple of injectors. Next stage was what we called multi-port fuel injection, where we have a fuel injector for every cylinder of the engine located close to the intake port. Now the next wave of this technology is direct injection, where we move the injector from the intake manifold to the combustion chamber, so it's directly, hence the name, directly injecting fuel right into the combustion chamber. The big advantage of that is the fact that we're no longer dependent on the camshaft and valve opening timing for injecting fuel. We can inject fuel whenever we want at whatever rate we want. Now we could regulate the rate before by the injector pulse width, and that's what I was actually measuring on this engine with the scan tool. But now we can inject at any part of the 720 degrees of crankshaft rotation that are the 4-stroke cycle engine. So the advantages of that are tremendous. Here's a couple of things that really jumped out at me on the press release. One is this engine has a compression ratio of 11.3 to 1, and it runs on regular gasoline. That's incredible in itself if you know anything about engines. Also, they talk about some other interesting points here. They've got a low pressure fuel pump back in the tank that brings fuel up to the engine, then a high pressure mechanical injector on the engine that produces 2,100 pounds per square inch of fuel pressure, so that they can inject right into the cylinder. Now, that sounds like a really high figure, but if you've ever worked on diesel engines, you know that a Cummins diesel has like 25,000 pounds of fuel pressure to get the diesel into that ultra high compression cylinder. So, I mean, these are new numbers for guys like myself in the automotive industry, but you know what? The numbers are always staggering when you get into new technology, and it's really interesting. Some of the other interesting numbers are direct injection delivers 7% more torque at low speed, 12% more torque at the high end, and it allows the engine to give 10% better fuel mileage as compared to a conventional multi-port engine. So what it's doing, Brad, is it's allowing the internal combustion engine to produce more power out of less displacement. And if you look at all the cars now in that segment, like the Camry, the Accord, etc., all these cars perform really well with a 4-cylinder engine. You no longer need to go to the V6 option. And you know, when you look at the Sonata, the Sonata's got the best specific power output per liter of any car in that group, and that's probably entirely because of direct injection. So it's the latest wave of engine technology, and you know what? As far as I'm concerned, anything that beats back those smarmy little hybrid cars and electric cars and allows that internal combustion engine to have a leg up, it's good news for me. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 2010.
A few years back, when Lexus introduced its LS460, we got our first chance to witness the active park system.
Pulling in front of the parking spot we want to go to. Simply push OK, take our hands off the steering wheel. We control the brake while we continue to watch the mirrors as we back up to make sure that there's no objects in our path.
That's right, no more stressful attempts at parking while other motorists look on. This car actually parks itself.
Then it will gradually just fill the box that it puts in there. And once the electric power steering is finished and the car's in the slot,
the guidance is finished.
The guidance is finished.
Now Ford has come out with its own advanced parking guidance system that they say, unlike the Lexus, is based not on backup cameras, but instead it employs ultrasonic sensors at the front and rear to properly position the car.
Okay, I'm in this Flex with this system. You push the button to activate it. You start going forward like you are looking for a parking space, but in this case, the vehicle is actually looking for you. So we're coming by what looks like a space to me. It's still searching, still searching. Oh, says space found. Pull forward a little more just to make sure there's enough room. Maybe it doesn't trust itself. There, you stop. Now I just put it in reverse, and this is the weird part. I never get used to it. You take your foot off the brake. You're only using the accelerator and brake, and the car, as you can see, is doing it itself. I'm just adding a little brake. It's really weird. Still backing up. Finds a spot. Now my rear sensor is telling me the car is behind me, and we know how those things work, so I give it a little more gas, and I'm going to put it now in drive. Again, hands off, just using the brake, back in reverse, keep going back into drive, done. Put it in park and get out, and Bob's your uncle.
Closed captioning of Motoring 2010 is brought to you by the most fuel-efficient crossover on the highway, the all-new Chevy Equinox.
There's a reason why a box looks like, well, a box, and that's because it's the most efficient way to carry stuff around. Now, efficiency isn't the only reason we buy cars, but that's why most cars look vaguely box-like, because it is efficient. In fact, most designers talk about cars in terms of the number of boxes the configuration represents. A one-box car, that would be your minivan. Two-box car, that would be like your station wagon or SUV. You got your engine box and your people and stuff box. And then the three-box car is your sedan. That'll be your engine box, your people box, and your cargo box. Now, it seems to me that the two-box car makes the most sense. I mean, if you're sitting at the very front of a one-box car in a frontal collision, that's probably not where you want to be. But a two-box car occupies the same footprint as a sedan, but you got all that free space behind you. If you don't have anything to put in the space, well, you're carrying around some air. That's no big deal. So why don't Americans particularly buy station wagons? I have no idea. Maybe it's because they think that's the kind of car their brother-in-law used to borrow to move his beer fridge. In Europe, that's all you see. Audi Avants and BMW Tourings and Volvo wagons are everywhere. They're fantastic. They are true sport utility vehicles because they're useful and they're sporty, which is something you can't say about American sport utility vehicles. And yet Americans are buying these things like they're going out of style. I only wish they would. couple of bad pieces of news recently. The best car BMW makes, no question, is the 5 Series Touring wagon. They're not bringing it into North America anymore. Why? And Volvo, I mean, they pretty much invented the modern station wagon. I used to own one myself. They're dropping the V70 wagon because its sales have tanked, while sales of the crossovers have gone up. Going up because they go up too. The vehicles are getting higher and higher. No wonder they fall over all the time. The center of gravity is about eyebrow level. So I don't get it, I don't understand it, but it is the truth. Station wagons simply don't sell in this market. It's like Yogi Berra used to say about baseball fans, if they won't come to the park, you can't stop them. I'm Jim Kenzie.
This week we've been checking out the 2011 Hyundai Sonata, and I want to make one thing perfectly clear. This company does not put a dime in motoring. However, it's been real difficult finding something to criticize either the company or the car. I love the exterior styling. It's reflected in the interior. It's a comfortable ride, lots of safety features. Now it is $250 more than its predecessor, but whatever. Now I do have one pet peeve. I touched on it earlier. Love to see a 6-cylinder, although Hyundai says it will be bringing along a turbo. When they launched the Genesis last year, a colleague of ours, David Booth, said, who would have thought this company would have caught up to BMW? Well, this segment may not be as exciting, but I think this segment is more important, and it's certainly larger. And I think that the Sonata has once again raised the benchmark. But you know, the real litmus test of any vehicle comes from the people who drive a company's cars and trucks. And a couple of our guys behind the lens have been driving Hyundai product for about 13 years. And both Dan and Peter have had no complaints. Incidentally, I should tell you that around the motoring crowd, we affectionately call this company Hyundai. It just rolls off the tongue a lot better. I don't expect it to become a trend. That's it for now. We'll see you next time out as we continue to bring you more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
The Tundra is a good truck, but it's a good truck compared to a 4 or 5 year old North American product. It's not a good truck compared to the new. There's also brand loyalty. There are people that would literally drop dead before they'll sell their Ford or their Chev. And that kind of loyalty does not change overnight, and I don't care how many NASCAR races you win.
Motoring 2010 on TSN has been brought to you by Quaker State, real durable oil, and Michelin, a better way forward.